Um, I came here because there was a tremendous blend of small town charm that I missed desperately from the town that I grew up in, and I think a lot of people do, as small towns have kind of disappeared in our country. It hasn't here, even though we get a lot of tourists every year. I love that, and I want to preserve that. We've got a really, really nice residential area off Talbot with wonderful old historic homes that we've preserved. And we're very dedicated to doing that, and I want to keep that the way it is. On the other side of that, we need to be business friendly. We need to make sure that people that come here and start a restaurant or a gift shop or whatever, that we don't put things in place that impede their success. I feel strongly about that. I think the aesthetics of it, it should be clean, it should be neat, it should be attractive, but we shouldn't give up the slight wildness or the slight raggedness of the Eastern Shore that I love. It's not Hilton Head Island. My biggest issue is financial issues. I took a look at the town finances and realized, I think early on, that we have a lot of money as compared to other towns on the Eastern Shore, and a lot of money compared to a lot of other towns in general. And the reason is that about 10 years ago we sold our electric utility to Chop Tank for a fairly large amount of money, many millions of dollars. And as a result, we've got a lot of money in the bank. Now that's been eroded and spent over the course of time. And I got a little concerned that we didn't have a real clear fiscal policy, and we really didn't have our arms around the long-term repair and replacement asset issues. So one of the first things I wanted to do was do a formal study called a repair and replacement study, or a reserve study. Mm-hmm. So we hired a company that did that. They came in and they looked at every single asset the town owns. It took them several days, 3 engineers, I think. They looked at everything from air conditioning units to police cars to buildings to whatever. And they do a complete analysis of that. And they determine its current value, its expected life expectancy, and what it would cost to replace it when it's time. And they do a complete study out 30 years. To maintain the assets of the town, roads and curbs and gutters, as well as all the other things, that over the course of 30 years, you're going to spend a very large amount of money, of residents' money, tax money. I think it came to like $17 million over that period. So what are you starting with? What do you want to end with? What's it going to cost over the life? That means how much do you have to contribute every year? And that's the first time we've ever had a professional look at that. You don't want to do it by the seat of your pants. Yeah. But I say this all the time. How much you spend every year starts with what your residents and your people that live here want it to be. You know, that's a decision they have to make right up front. I mean, how clean do you want the streets to be? How pristine do you want it? Because we can make anything happen with the right amount of money. There's still people in town that feel very strongly that if we have money, without setting the dollars aside, whether we have enough of it, it should be spent on burying utility poles through the middle of town, as opposed to some other purpose. The utility study that we're doing, we'll have a result to that fairly soon, and we'll be able to go back to the residents and say, yes, we can bury the telephone poles, but it's going to cost this much, and it's going to disrupt the town for 2 full years or whatever, you know, and then a decision can be made. Yeah. Recently, the police chief came to us and said, my small police station that's been there for 10 years, the little house over in Fremont, is inadequate. Policing has changed. Things have changed in America, and they have in terms of that. And he feels that we need a new police station. We've formed a committee. We've done a lot of work looking at it. We've got an architect helping us. We just recently acquired a property just on the entrance to town at Boundary Lane in Talbot. We bought it the town bought it at a fantastic price. They thought it could be a police station, could be a town hall site, or it could just be parking. So it's just the right thing to do to buy it. We bought it for $200,000. And you just asked the question, doing what residents want. We had a town hall about this. We listened intently to the people in town about what do you want? And that was something that came up 2 or 3 times. Why would you want to go out and build 2 new buildings and you've got all the costs associated to two buildings and real estate, just combine them. The problem, the challenge we have is a space big enough to handle both. A lot big enough to build a building that handles both. It may be doable, and we're looking at it. The only thing that I would say is that people know, they have an image of St. Michael's. They ought to come and see it, because it may be a little bit different than what they thought it is, but it's a wonderful place. And we want to keep it desirable for everybody. People that live here, everybody that lives here, people that have second homes here, people that come on day trips, people that come and stay in our B's and B&B's. And the way I learned this place, people that come by boat, that's a large bunch of people that come here every year or every weekend, and they keep their boats down at the harbor, they walk through town, they spend a lot of money in the restaurants and the shops. It's fantastic. You know, for example, there's one thing that I've thought of. There's a certain number of slips in town. There's a certain number of boats you can accommodate. There's a certain number of beds in town. And on a busy weekend, they're all full. So what do you do? Well, one thing we might consider is pursuing mooring balls out in the harbor, out of the harbor, because less and less people are anchoring their boats out there. Less and less every year. Coming and hooking the mooring ball and running a water taxi out to bring people in and out would be a huge boon to the town. I just haven't been able to get to that.
That's it.